Good morning, everyone. I am here today with another video. This one is made based off of your suggestions, and this is going to be sort of an in-depth look of some of the basic tools and materials that I use. This video will be good for anyone who is interested in what I use personally or who is starting out with embroidery. I'm just going to kind of show you the very basics that you'll need. And so let's begin. First and foremost, you have to figure out what type of fabric you want to work on. Definitely has to do with personal preference, but you also want to take into account the type of embroidery work you're going to be doing on that fabric. Since the pieces that I create tend to be very heavily stitched, I gravitate towards fabrics that are sturdy enough to support that. So this is the fabric I use. We have a store called Michael's. I'm in the United States. It's a craft store. You can find it online, but the brand is Loops and Threads. It is a canvas fabric. On the back, it says 100% cotton, muslin. As you can see, this fabric is pretty sturdy. While it provides some stretch, it is not very stretchy. It is flexible though. I mean, you could see the drape on it. Not super, super thick. I have just found this. I haven't really worked on much else, to be quite honest. I found this, and if I find something I like, I normally stick with it. So this is the fabric I use. The next basic tool I need to create my pieces are needles. So I don't use embroidery needles for my embroidery. For me, the eye and the needle is too small, and I like a bigger eye so that I can fit different amounts of strands through without having to switch up my needle. So that is why I use tapestry needles instead. And the brand I use is DMC. The size I normally use is 26. So the thing with tapestry needles is they tend to have rounded ends. They're still pointy enough to get through my work. But if I am working on something that has lots and lots of layers and I need something to cut through that easier, that's when I grab a chenille needle, because they have pointed tips that are sharper than these. So those are easier to push through really thick layers of threads that build up while I'm doing my thread paintings. But normally a tapestry needle works just fine. So these are the needles that I use. So next up, you will need thread. The type of thread I use is 100% cotton 6-stranded embroidery floss from DMC. This brand is just, I feel like, tried and true. They've been around for years and years. So many colors, the quality's great. The reason I use 6-stranded embroidery floss is because I can separate the strands, use more if I want for pieces that don't need a whole lot of detail work, use less strands for those pieces that do. It's just, I like working with it. Again, personal preference. So I have many different bags separated into different colors. This is basically all I use, DMC brand. The next thing you will need is embroidery scissors. These little guys are small, sharp-tipped, little snippies. The sharp tip allows you to get down low in your work and snip off any, anything that needs to be cut. Any mistakes, knots in your thread, these are just a must, you need them. So these are the ones I use. And then along the lines of scissors, I like to use these for cutting fabric, my base fabric, cutting the felt that I use to back my pieces when I'm done. This brand is Fiskars. They are like steel forged shears, like fabric shears. These are designed to really kind of glide through your fabrics that need to be cut. So this is always nice to have fabric scissors on hand while you're working. The next thing you're gonna need is an embroidery hoop to work on. And you also might choose a different one as a finishing hoop to transfer your work to when you're done. But I normally choose just a basic bamboo hoop. They come in many sizes, they come in different shapes. I just use a round, normally 3-inch embroidery hoop. You can find them at your craft store, you can find them online easily. This is just what I've started working on when I first started getting into embroidery, and I just stuck with it. When finishing my pieces, I like to back them with felt. Again, I get most of my stuff at Michael's craft store. You can find felt lots of places though, craft stores, online. This brand is called Creatology. It is basic felt, 100% polyester, it says. It's not too rigid. It's pretty bendable, but I use this to back my pieces when I'm done. When creating my designs, I hand draw or trace the pattern directly onto my base fabric. And for that, I use a couple different pens. I started off with this one when I was first learning. It's super easy to use, it's water soluble. So if you're drawing on your base fabric and you make a mistake, I just kind of dampen a paper towel and blot out what I want to erase and it disappears. This one is just a random one I found on Amazon, but I know DMC makes one. They are all pretty similar though. The thing with the water soluble blue marker is that the tip is a little bit thick. So this one is better used for designs that don't have too much detail, because if you're trying to do a smaller design on your base fabric with lots of detail, this tip is the lines are gonna kind of blend together. So I use this one for when I was first starting out. My designs were pretty basic. This worked great. Nowadays, my designs are a lot more detailed and they are still very small. So this is like a thermo sensitive pen. This can be erased by friction, but when you're doing your embroidery work, heat is what erases these lines. The tip of this pen is very fine. The brand of this pen is Frixon by Pilot. It is a Synergy clicker and it's like a erasable gel pen. The point on this one I think is 0.5 millimeters. So this one is an extra fine tip. And this is the one that I use for my designs. Now, the only thing with this one, I like that you can get a lot more detail drawn onto your fabric with this one, but I don't like the fact that it's harder to erase if I make a mistake. So I have to either bust out my hair dryer and blow it all off, because you can't really focus onto a small point with your hair dryer. If you make a mistake, you're basically erasing the whole thing. So that's why with this one, I will normally trace my drawings, or I will trace my designs onto my fabric instead of trying to just freehand like I did with this one. So I think it's good to have both of them just readily available so you can decide which pen or marker will be best for the design you're working on. Now that we're on the topic of design and your patterns, this has come to be like a staple in my process of creating my embroideries. This is the DMC color card. Basically, it is a giant pamphlet thing of all the colors they provide in their 6-stranded floss that I use. Let's see, here we go. So yeah, this one is the threaded version of their color card, which I prefer over their printed version because you can actually see the actual floss. And I think it's more accurate as far as color instead of the printed version, but that's just me. So I use this color card when I'm trying to color match, especially when I'm working off of a photo. And I'm trying to match my colors to that photo. I will use this to kind of bring it close to my photo and be like, okay, this is the color that's closest, and just match my colors that way. I will also, if I have a color already and I want to find one that will complement it or go with it, I'll have my floss here, and then I'll just kind of take it down the line and find colors that I like that go with it well. So this has become a really useful tool for me. A lot of you have asked what hoop stand I use. This is it. This is my first hoop stand I ever purchased after looking around online and kind of doing research. I knew I wanted a tabletop hoop stand that I could just set on my workspace in front of me, one that had like a bigger base so that it wouldn't topple over while I was pulling my needles through all the layers that I work with. I wanted one that was adjustable, and the arm can move around. So it's portable because it's size. So I haven't tried to do it, but I believe you can take this to the couch and sit on this part and have this come up between your legs, I think, and you can work on it in front of you like this. The brand is Nerge. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Nerge. The only thing I wish that it was capable of was this part twisting over so that I could see the bottom of my work easily if I needed to kind of flip it over. But I'm fine. Like, that's not a deal breaker for me. This hoop stand is great and I use it all the time. I hope you enjoyed today's video and getting a little bit of a closer look of the things that I use to make my embroideries. And as always, I have linked below my list of all the things I use down in the caption. So you can take that if you want to see some more information on these products. Please let me know if there's anything that I missed that you are curious about. I will be more than happy to make another video of some of the other tools and materials that I use that make embroidery a lot easier for me. All right, well, thanks for watching, and I will see you soon.